Okay, this video is called How to Write a Book Fast. Now I made a much longer, this lecture is only going to be about 10 minutes long, but I made a much longer video. It's over at VegSource called, How to Write Better. That's a magnificent lecture. I'm proud of that one. It didn't get that many views. It deserves a lot more views. Probably shadow banned. Maybe people just don't care, but that was a magnificent lecture. If you want to learn how to write, that's why I go into way more detail. But this one is more of a quick overview to get the idea how you could do it if you want to do it, or if you want to teach somebody who wants to do it. This is how it works. I'm just going to give you the fast overview with a couple of things in here I think are pretty interesting. So the first one is, how do you write anything of quality? And you have to have a good author voice. The voice of the author is one of the most important things. And the key is just number one, write like you're talking to a friend. So this is me and my brother. This is my older brother, real tall and good looking. Here's my younger brother, superstar athlete. He's a world champion athlete. And so basically, I was like the ugly duckling in my family. When I was dating a girl, I would never want her to see my brothers before I had slept with her if I wanted her to be my girlfriend. Because as soon as a girl would see my brother, she'd go, "Your brothers are gorgeous." They would fall in love with my brothers, okay? So I learned my lesson. Anyways, just write like you're talking to an intelligent friend. The other thing is, you should write like you are the tour guide to the Sistine Chapel. You're sharing with them magnificent things. And if you don't have something magnificent to write about, then why are you writing the book? You should have something really special to say. I first sort of really understood this idea of author voice when I saw the comments from Peter Elbow, a writing teacher. I had an inkling of it before. And I like Bishop Barron, this idea of beauty. I'm a Christian, okay, a Catholic, and we make the most beautiful painting of anyone in the world by far. And I like to share with people beautiful, great things, okay? Everybody's stuck in the muck with their regular life, all the tedious BS they have to do to make a living, make money. But it's also good to remember there's all these great things too. And so I like the Bishop Barron quote. When people see beautiful Christian art, beautiful Christian painting, they first recognize it's beautiful, like the Sistine Chapel ceiling here and the far wall with the Last Judgment and the paintings on the side done from the earlier Florentine painters like Perugino and Botticelli and whatnot from the 1400s. They first see that it's beautiful, and as they contemplate it some more, they feel that it is good. This is a quote of Bishop Barron. And then after they see it's beautiful and they contemplate it and they feel and they sense that it is good, they then look some more and realize that it's true. And that's like one of the magnificent things about Christian art. Okay, now, let me go to the next slide here. You have to have something to say. So, the most important thing is that, I won't write a book unless I feel I have something important to say. Like I wrote the book about the kidneys, how to prevent and reverse kidney failure, because I know that most patients with kidney failure, they never see a dietitian until they're on dialysis. They're screwed, okay? They got a 50%, they got the risk of death is like 50% in 5 years, like a bad cancer, all right? So they need to know about this sooner rather than later, okay? And so anyways, that's why I wrote the dialysis book. I wrote the book about AFib because I knew lots of these people could have it easily prevented by avoiding the atherosclerosis, hypertension, diabetes risk factors, and the mitochondrial inhibitors. Okay, so I love this painting by Norman Rockwell, Freedom of Speech. When you got something to say it. Now's the time to say something to save America. America has a chance to be saved. It's not hopeless. The Democrats aren't going to force us into slavery and communism if we stand up for freedom now and say, let's keep freedom in America. Okay, let's keep Christianity in America. Now, I like this guy. He's like the best of the male American authors in the 1900s. This is Tom Wolfe, and here's his quote. As a young writer, I thought style was more important than content. But as I got older, I realized that great writing is about 75% content and 25% style. So he's fantastic with onomatopoeia, fancy punctuation, stream of consciousness, and he has something useful to say before he writes his books. After my first book, I got criticized a lot by my friends, a bunch of lawyers, and they all told me, Pete, you're doing this wrong, you're not punctuating correctly, your grammar's wrong, your syntax is wrong. I'm like, all right, fine. And I knew they were correct. I had gotten an A in my writing class at Stanford, but that was more like stunk and bite me, basic house cleaning, and I had more to learn. So I read everything I could on how to write better, and I wrote this book, Rhyme, Rhetoric, and Logic, How to Write and Speak Better with Classical and Modern Methods. Went through all the rhetoric, all that kind of stuff. Now, the next thing is, a lot of times you will say to yourself, well, who am I to write this book? I'm a nobody. I was kicked out of the big university. The publisher, the journal won't take my article or something. And to realize is that most of the best writers, they do not come from the establishment. The establishment in the modern world is a piece of crap. A professor at a university is somebody who does not know their field for the most part. There are exceptions to that, of course, but most conventional doctors, they don't know anything about nutrition, epidemiology, or toxicology, so they basically don't know what causes disease or how to treat it. They're kind of a joke, okay? So that's why I'm totally comfortable writing about other fields of medicine beside my own, because I know that they don't know their fields. I'm the one that teaches them their own field. And I can tell you that's a fact. I can actually tell you the best doctors in the other fields come to me to have me teach them their own field. That's not a joke. That's a exactly correct statement. So what I'm showing you here is a list of all these magnificent masterpiece books that were all written by exiles and prisoners and half-breeds and posthumous writers scared to publish. So that's where the best books come from. So if you're in that group, then you've got a chance to write one of the masterpieces of your field. So stick with it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is, before I ever write a book, I always make a mind map. And the mind map is just an overview summary of what to do. You don't want to start out with an outline, because a lot of idiots will tell you, make an outline. No, 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 no. You can't make an outline in the beginning because you don't yet know the order of everything. An outline requires you to put things in order, and then a lot of people end up with writer's block because they just can't figure out that, the order they want it in. You should have an idea what's going to be the ending. You should know or come up with an opener that you like, and then go with that. But have something to say, make a mind map, figure out an opener, figure out an ending, and then you start accumulating things like what other authors do I want to quote in the book? Okay, what pictures do I want to include in the book? What pictures do I want to draw myself? What famous paintings might be relevant in the form of a metaphor? What other great metaphors do I have? Where can I throw in more rhetoric, more alliteration, more rhetoric templates, antithesis and all that kind of stuff, chiasmus, all that kind of stuff. What am I going to use for the cover picture? How do I hold this together? Can I make a narrative? Can I make a theme that holds it all together? Can I make sure I put the good stuff right in the beginning? Make sure the first couple pages are best. That's what people are going to see on Amazon and decide whether or not they want to buy it or not, if they're going to buy it online. There's always a list of things I got to do more reading. Like I got to read the background books. In the early days when I was getting started, I would read 100 books before I felt I was ready to write my own book. Converse with other people about it so you get a sense of what you're missing, what the audience expects in addition to what you've got so far. Make some videos about it to practice with the topic. You'll get ideas from the viewer comments, the feedback. And then I like to add little jokes in there, like Monty Python. They would make all these funny jokes. I love that movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they made funny comments in the credits. Also like Animal House at the end of the movie, where they showed what ended up happening to the different people in the movie. I thought that was great. So I'm like, why not make jokes all over the place? Like Sergio Aragonés in the Mad comic books, he used to draw little funny drawings in the margins, which reminds me, of course, of the Bible, like the Book of Kel, those illustrated versions of the Bible. So anyways, then I also look at heroes. And when I say heroes in this context, if we're talking about a nutrition book, that'll be like, who are the nutrition pioneers that I should include in the book? So I get all this stuff figured out in the mind map. And the main purpose of a mind map, as far as I'm concerned, is I've already conceived the book in my mind, but I need it on paper because in the past when I didn't make a mind map, I would screw up and I would forget 1, 2, 3, or even 4 things that I really wanted in the book. So by making it a mind map, a lot of times I'm just drawing a small bubble out to make sure to include this, make sure to include this. And then a day or two go by, I'll have another idea. I'll stick it on the mind map, make sure to include this. And I'll look at that mind map before I finish the book, so I'm less likely to forget to include something. Okay, the next thing is the row your boat method of writing. So what this means is you're always smartest when you first wake up in the morning because your brain has cleaned itself through the glymphatic system. Your brain can only go offline while you're asleep, and the neurons pump out their waste products, cerebral spinal fluid, spaces around the neurons, the perivascular spaces of Wernicke Rubin are opened up, and the CSF rinses away the waste products. So now your brain is fresh. So as soon as you get out of bed in the morning, sit down and start writing. Always do that. Do not eat, do not work out, do not take a shower. Sit down and get right working on the book, and then crank all day. All right, so row your boat means that you're smartest first thing in the morning, So that's when you start on your new book. You'll start getting burnt out sometime in the afternoon, depending on the complexity, difficulty, and newness of the material. You'll start burning out, usually anywhere from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. You'll start burning out. And then you got to back off, and you can't work on the new book anymore. It requires too much concentration. So then I'm usually simultaneously working on 2 books, sometimes even 3. And for the second book, I might just be thinking about jokes or paintings or metaphors, and I might sort of collect those and put them into a folder so I'll have them ready when I get to that point. Sometimes it just means, like, let's say I have to do more reading. I've got like a list of 5, 6, 10 books I have to read for the next book. I'll just read those books. And I'll do the same thing in the evening. I'll watch videos or something related to the topic. So that's all background information. So I call that row, row, row your boat, so that when the time comes, the month of, I decide, this is the month I'm going to finish this book. I've got all the accumulated images in the folder. I've got everything added to my mind map that I need to include. I've got the drawings for that book in that folder. So when it comes time to write that book, crank, 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 picture here, drawing here, figure it all out together, check the mind map, it's good. Okay, so I can write a book really fast once I've done all that, but I spent a lot of afternoons and early evenings doing row, row, row your boat to get ready into that position where I can finish the book quick. And the reason I have to do that is because a lot of times I'll just have a couple days off a given month. So everything will be preparation, and then I'll have 5 days off that month, a couple weekends and a day off. Boom, I'm going to finish the book in that time span. And I got to crank. I'll get up at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and I'll crank straight through till 7 o'clock at night till I finish that book. And then the hero's journey is a lot what it's like to become an expert in a field, and it's a little bit like what our overall life is like. And what I'm saying is this is the experience you'll have as you develop the knowledge to write a book. You'll initially enter that field, and you're probably going to be humiliated as a baby beginner. You're probably going to make mistakes. People are going to laugh at you. And you just have to go through all that and accept the fact, I'm a man on a mission. I'm going to master this field. And after you go through all your setbacks, you'll hit rock bottom where you've probably most greatly humiliated yourself and been embarrassed and been mocked. So what? Okay? Then you got to start climbing out of the pit, and you'll be ready to succeed. So let me show you another picture of what I mean by that. This is a little bit of the feeling why I love writing books, is that you get this feeling of, you know what, I've been through it. You sort of been to hell there and back. You know, not, of course, quite the hell that a soldier goes through, but it's this feeling. You know, this name of this painting is Homecoming by Norman Rockwell, and it's beautiful. So he comes back, he's thrilled to see his family, his old girlfriend's there, younger brothers, friends, and it's just sort of like you get this feeling of, I did it. Because I know I'll say to myself, I got a big book coming up, and I know I'm going to have to work 12-hour days to finish it, and I'll be saying to myself, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. Those little personal affirmations, they kind of get me psyched up, because always you're getting beaten down. You've got tons and tons of work. Family and friends want you to do all these other obligations. Other people are annoyed at you. They're telling you, why aren't you normal? Why the hell do you sit in your office so much writing a book? You know, why don't you? What I'm trying to say is there's all these pressures to do everything else except the book. So you have to say, no, I can do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. You get up in the morning and you crank that book out, and you have to just like avoid your phone, avoid your email, avoid all distractions, avoid invitations to go places, and just do the book. And then when it's all done, you're all happy, you know. So anyways, that's what it's like to write a book.